The ROV went into the water at 2200 hours. Elena stood at the monitor station inside the Meridian's operations room and watched the feed as the vehicle descended. Price was at the controls. 2 technicians ran in the recording equipment. Nobody talked much. The kind of quiet that settles over a room when everyone in it understands that what they are about to see cannot be unseen. The descent took 40 minutes. At 1,000 feet, the water went completely black. The ROV's lights pushed maybe 15 feet into the dark in any direction, and beyond that, there was nothing. Just pressure and cold, and the kind of silence that has no bottom to it. At 2,400 feet, the sonar picked up the hull. Price adjusted course and brought the ROV around in a slow arc, and then the lights caught the Redfin, and everyone in the operations room went very still. She was sitting upright on the bottom. That was the first thing. Submarines that go down at depth do not usually sit upright. They hit the bottom hard, and they list and they settle at an angle. The Redfin was sitting on the ocean floor as if she had been placed there. Level, careful, like someone had taken the time to set her down gently. The hull was intact. Elena could see that immediately. No visible breach, no collapse. The pressure hull that should have been crushed at this depth was whole and solid, and showed nothing worse than 56 years of marine growth and rust. The dive planes were deployed. The propeller was still. Price brought the ROV in close along the port side. The camera swept across the hull number. SS 272. Clear and unmistakable even under the rust and the growth. She is in one piece, one of the technicians said quietly. She should not be, Price said. He did not look away from the controls. At this depth, with no structural failure, the pressure alone should have done significant damage. She looks like she was parked. Elena looked at the hull, at the intact hatches, at the sail rising cleanly from the deck, the alertio archier still in place, the antenna-time masts still extended. A submarine frozen in the moment of a normal dive. Nothing broken, nothing collapsed. Just sitting there in the dark at 2,800 feet, as if waiting for orders to surface. "Go around the stern," she said. Price nodded and brought the ROV around the back of the boat. The propeller filled the camera for a moment, 7 blades. Enormous as say. And then they cleared it and came around to the starboard side. The secondary sonar contact was gone. Elena noticed it immediately. The circling return that had been tracking around the hull for 3 hours, the reading that Price had watched change direction twice, was no longer on the screen. Where did it go? She said. Price checked the sonar. Checked it again. I am not reading it anymore. He zoomed the sonar out. Nothing on the wider scan either. It was there 10 minutes ago. They were both quiet for a moment. Keep going, Elena said. Price moved the ROV slowly along the starboard side. The camera passed over the torpedo room hatch, sealed the forward escape trunk, sealed. The forward escape trunk, sealed. The main access hatch amidships, sealed. Every hatch exactly as it should be. A boat that had gone down with everything closed and had stayed that way for 56 years. Then the camera reached the con tower hatch. Elena leaned forward. The con tower hatch was open, not damaged, not blown open. Hinged back on its mechanism the way you open a hatch when you intend to come back through it. The way you open a hatch from the inside. That hatch was opened after she went down, Price said. His voice was very flat. The voice of someone being very careful about say something. At this depth, from the inside. Elena stared at the open hatch on the screen, at 2,800 feet. After 56 years, someone or something had opened that hatch from inside. A submarine that the Navy said had no survivors. Can we get the ROV inside? She said. The opening is wide enough, Price said. He did not say anything else for a moment. Then, Elena. The sonar contact. What about it? I know where it went. Elena looked at the sonar screen. Price had zoomed it back in. The secondary contact was there again, not circling the hull anymore, stationary now. Directly above the ROV. Between the ROV and the surface, between them and the Meridian. Sitting in the water column at around 1,400 feet and not moving. Elena looked at the contact for a long time. Then she looked at the open hatch on the camera feed. Dark inside. Nothing visible beyond the first foot of the opening. Take us in, she said. Price looked at her. Take us in, she said again. Price turned back to the controls. He brought the ROV around carefully and lined it up. with the open con tower hatch and began the approach. The light swept into the opening ahead of them, pushing back the dark inside the submarine inch by inch. As they got closer, at 3 feet out, the sonar contact above them began to move, not toward the surface, downward, fast and direct, dropping through the water column, the way something drops when it has decided where it is going and is done being patient about getting there. Straight toward the Redfin. Straight toward them. Pull back, Elena said. Price was already moving the controls. The ROV swung hard to port and cleared the hatch. Opening and Price pushed the thrusters to full, and the vehicle surged away from the hull into open water. The camera spun and caught the con tower hatch for 1 second as they pulled away. Something was coming out of it, coming up through the open hatch from inside the submarine. Large, dark, moving with the fluid certainty of something that knew exactly where it was going. Price killed the ROV lights. The screen went black. The operations room was completely silent. Then, from the sonar screen, a single return. Right where the ROV was, right where they were sitting in the dark at 2,800 feet with no lights and no visibility and something that had just come out of a sealed submarine, somewhere very close in the dark, around them. Elena looked at Price. "Bring it up," she said quietly. "Bring it up right now." Price brought it up. It took 40 minutes to ascend. The longest 40 minutes of Elena's life. She watched the depth gauge count up in the sonar screen the whole way, and she did not look away from either of them for a single second. The sonar contact followed them up to 1,800 feet. Then it stopped. Then it went back down. When the ROV broke the surface, and Price brought it aboard, and they pulled the memory card from the camera system and played back the last 3 seconds of footage before the lights went out, Elena watched it 4 times before she said anything. The thing coming out of the con tower hatch had no shape her mind could hold for more than a second. But it was large, and it had been inside that submarine for a very long time. And before Price had killed the lights in the last frame of footage, it had turned toward the camera, and it had looked directly into the lens. Like it knew someone was watching, like it had been waiting for someone to come and watch. Chapter 2 ends here. Chapter 3 coming Friday. Subscribe to The Drifting Dark. The ROV came back up. Not everyone will.